All right. Good evening. Hello, 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 everybody. All right. Who's Mad Beach Strong? We have all been... Thank you very much. Okay. All right, there we go. We are broadcasting this a couple different ways. We'll be sending out the link of it. We'll be on Facebook and YouTube, and we'll send it out tomorrow also. But first and foremost, what a few weeks we've had. Somebody said earlier today, I think it was Jim Everett, that it was a cataclysmic... Oh, we're going to turn the music down. There we go. The background music's gone. All right. Again, welcome everybody. And what a hell of a few weeks we've had. But this community, I've never seen anything like the way it comes together. So let's give everybody a hand for just being here. And it's been a cataclysmic few weeks that we've had, but one thing's for sure is that we are going to get better. We are Mad Beach Strong, and we got this, we're going to figure it out. Right now, the best analogy is we've all been kind of punched in the eye. We're starting to see a little bit. We have a ton of questions. We've got a ton of questions, and we're going to do our best today with a great panel of experts to sort through it. Like, what the hell do we do now? Right? We've got a million options, and some are good, some are bad, some are good for some are bad for some. And for your family and for yourself, they're all going to be different options, right? So, in open communication today. First and foremost, I'd like to invite our mayor, Mayor Anne Marie Brooks, up because she's done an amazing job leading the city in this recovery, and it's just beginning. But thank you very much. You got that one over there as well?
Hi, everybody. So I have a couple of things that I want to just talk about that we've been trying to get out on social media. The first thing is every single home that had water damage needs to have a debris removal permit. So if you haven't applied for the permit, there's no charge. You can go online. I would advise or highly ask you to come to City Hall and sit down with one of the building officials, and they will walk you through the steps of the 50% program with FEMA. They will help you to understand whether or not that 50% that you currently have can be raised so that you have more leeway with dollars, and they can walk you through the process of what your next steps would be. If you've already removed your sheetrock, which I think most people have, you're not going to be penalized for applying for the permit. They just want everybody to get the permit so that you don't run into an issue where if you start putting your walls back up, that could become an issue because the building department would not be able to final a permit that they can't see the product on. The second thing I wanted to tell you is a lot of residents have sand that came on your property and they know where to dispose it. The county opened up Sand Key Park today that you can take any sand that you have on property. It'll be open every day from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and it is for residents and commercial. They will not turn anyone away. The best thing I think I can tell you today is that the debris removal finally started. The trucks came. Fantastic. They started on the north end of Madeira Beach and they will work their way south. It is going to take some time, so please be patient, but they are working on it. Public Works has been working on our beach to get all of the debris. If anyone saw the beach, there was tons of nasty, gnarly stuff that washed out there. The sand was really smelly and yucky. They are going to start tomorrow putting some sand out on the beach, so hopefully in the next week and a half, the beach will be in some position where we can enjoy our beaches and hopefully have a nice beer. And I think that's all I have, but that's good news. I hope everyone gets lots of information today, and like I said, come to City Hall, sit with the staff, let them walk you through the 50% rule and where we're at with FEMA's requirements on that. Thank you all.
Awesome. Thank you. we're going to talk a lot about 50% rule. We're going to talk about ways to beat it, not beat it, I shouldn't say that, this is recorded. Different strategies for approaching what your end goal could be, right, on that one. One of the scoops that I'll say that I know she probably won't say, the mayor, is the debris removal reason, because a lot of us want to know what happened, right, why it took so long. And then I just got the scoop right before this. So Senator Rick Scott and Anna Luna have been tirelessly working, and Nick DeSiglia, our local people. There was a big problem because what happened, just I think it's good to just know, is there's pre-contracts. So you go to contractors and you say, hey, in the event we have a hurricane, you need to, here's a contract to be our response team, right? And the response team says, yeah, I want to do it, and I'll do it for $9.95 a yard, cubic yard. And then they get the contract, they're on standby, you get a hurricane, they come and they do it. That's the pre-contract. Now we had a cataclysmic event where we needed more people. And the people that came were getting paid $15 a cubic yard. So the people that had the $9 contract were pissed about the people that had the $15 contract. We're trying to fight about the contract. And then, but Rick Scott and Aluna and the commissioners in the city, right, and the county all stood their ground and said, no, a contract's a contract, you're doing your thing, we're not letting you out, because if you cave, what's gonna happen on the next storm? Contracts are irrelevant. So that was the reason for some of the delay. I think it was good backbone from all of the government to do it right. But now that was resolved this morning, and that's why all this stuff is starting to happen. So north to south, it's moving in Madeira Beach. So thank you to the government, to the city, to the county for getting that to happen. So that's the backstory about the debris delay, but it's moving. Okay, so here's what we're doing today. We're gonna have one great panel. We're gonna invite Mr. Jim Everett. Anything we can do about that buzz? Here comes Jim. He's getting a beer.
I'm trying to get a beer.
Get the man a beer. So Jim Everett, local guy. Everybody here is local, right? We're here to figure out and help each other out. Jim is my personal insurance guy, a real great friend. And he may or may not be your insurance guy, but he's here to help, right? So we're gonna talk about a few different strategies. We're gonna talk about myths. We're going to talk about all the crazy stuff you see on Facebook. Is it true? Is it not? And what do we do together? So Jim, welcome.
That's the first time in history an insurance person got applause. Ever.
All right. A couple questions let's start with.
Yes, sir.
Who's seen the Facebook post, Instagram posts that don't say the word flood? Right. It's rising hurricane-driven wind and rain.
Right.
Let's talk about myths. Is there anything we can do about that, Jeremy?
Well, adjusters aren't stupid. So if you've got a 4-foot watermark in your house, it's going to be a real hard time convincing them that it's wind-driven rain or water intrusion. He's going to say, yeah, it's water intrusion.
A little closer. Closer to the mic.
Oh. Water intrusion is not going to bring in 4 feet of water into your home. So if you don't have flood insurance and you had 4 feet of water in your house, your homeowner's policy is not going to answer. But we had Milton, which had a lot of wind. So I would encourage you, if you do have a homeowner's policy and you have not yet opened a claim on your homeowner's policy, that you do for a couple of reasons. Number one, if you have a FEMA flood insurance policy, there's no loss of use for the structure. So if you're waiting for them to repay you for housing and things like that, not gonna happen. It's not included in a FEMA policy. Not my fault. That's how the program is set up.
And that's any flood policy, right?
Well, no. If you have a private flood policy, there usually is an option for loss of use. And you can also get replacement costs for your personal articles. On a FEMA plan, it's depreciated. They use a term called actual cash value, which sounds really terrific. I really hate that term, because it means depreciated value. So you're gonna get 60 cents on the dollar for your personal items, maybe. And you gotta do a detailed inventory. So they're gonna ask you for that if they haven't already. It's painful. I had 5 feet of water in my 1-story 1955 concrete block house. I'm in the same boat all y'all are. Everything I own is on the curb. I told my wife today, we gotta go to the store. I don't have any long pants and it's getting cold. So, anyway. So, you know, here's the other thing I'll say, and Jeff, you're probably going to ask me, but I get a lot of questions about public adjusters, and I actually refer people to public adjusters, so I'll say that first of all. But the one thing I'll say about flood insurance, if you have a FEMA policy, the maximum amount of money you're gonna get in the policy. Thank you, John. You're a good man. That's one of my insureds right there. John Mark, thank you, buddy. If you're working with a FEMA flood policy, you have a grand total of $350,000 max. $250 max on the building and $100,000 contents is the most you can buy on a residential FEMA flood policy. So it's not like a homeowner policy. You might have $1 million in coverage on a homeowner policy, so you've got a lot more leeway there. I always recommend that you let the insurance adjuster do their thing, and then if you think the values are low, then retain the services of a public adjuster. So that's always an option for you. If you retain them up front, you're gonna give them a percentage of your settlement, and maybe you're gonna get full payout anyway. And a lot of people with 5 feet of water are gonna get full payout, so.
And the public adjuster will be up here shortly to tell you his side of that.
Of course, and that's correct. Look, and I've referred people to public adjusters. I swear them to secrecy, but I refer people to them if I think they're getting screwed by the insurance adjuster, you know, because most of them are my neighbors, so I don't want to see anybody get screwed. So, but I would just say let the insurance guy do his thing, because chances are it's going to be a pretty fair number. And then if you think it's not, you can always go get a public adjuster and contest it. So, but if you're already going to get $350 on your FEMA policy and you've engaged a public adjuster, you're going to give up 5 to 10% of your settlement, and you were going to get that money anyway. So, and yeah, it depends. It depends. They're all different. 5, 10, 15. It depends. But if you think you're getting hosed, that's another story.
Very good. And one thing, we are going to do a Q&A, but so hold those. We're probably going to answer some of them. Then you just come up and ask your questions. We'll handle them. So let's talk about strategy for a second, right? Depending on your home, we all got it, right? It depends on what your strategy is. There's some of you want a very high number of damage, and some of you would rather have a low damage number, right? And let's talk about strategies between the two. I was talking to one of my neighbors, I think is here, Josh, I don't know, and he wants to rebuild, right? This is his 4th flood in a few years, right? A lot of you, we're all in the same boat, right? And he's got a repetitive loss, and he really doesn't want to keep rebuilding his kitchen, right? So the hope, what's his hope?
Big payout.
A big payout, because you want to get over that 50% number, because if you get over that 50% number, what happens?
You get the full payout.
You get the full payout. It's a loss. It's a wipeout loss.
Right.
So his specific one was because there was 4 feet of water in the house, and it was his 3rd claim, right? 4 feet of water splashes on the upper cabinets, splashes on everything, and now you got to take all the baseboards out, all of the drywall, the upper cabinets, the windows, everything. And when you start adding all that up, there's no way you're going to get over that number. Let's talk about what that number is and where do we find it, because it's relevant. So there's the FEMA letter.
Yeah, it's right on the property appraiser website. That number's right there, and most of the building inspectors are going to go by that number, and it's a low number. If you have a private appraisal, typically they'll take that. If you have a private appraisal, you can, if you've got pictures, you can get an appraisal done after the fact. So just because you've already suffered the damage, you can still, if you've got documentation, present that to an appraiser for an updated appraisal. But remember, it's just the building, it's not the dirt. So when you say, oh, I've got $1 million house, well, you probably have a $250,000 house and a $750,000 lot. They don't give you any credit for the land, it's the building only. And one other point I want to make, Jeff, I was talking about loss of use, and I forgot to finish the thought, but one of the reasons you want the homeowner's policy to answer is typically a home insurance policy has a loss of use provision. So there's dollars you can access on the homeowner's policy side to help pay your expenses, your living expenses while you're not in your home, which is not on the flood policy. So that's another reason to file a homeowner claim.
So let's go strategy on this, right? So you get the low FEMA letter price that's on the Pinellas County Property Appraiser site. Let's use that example. It's $1 million house. It's a 250 lot. It's a 250 structure and a 750 piece of dirt. So 50% of 250 is 125.
Yeah.
So using this math, if you get the repair number is greater than $250,000, you're going to get the wash out, right? If it comes in less than that, less than $125,000, what can you do?
You can fix the house.
you can fix the house. If it goes over that, you can't fix the house.
Right.
So you got to figure out, what do you want to do? Some of you want to fix your house, right? And put the drywall back and put the baseboards in, put the kitchen, get a tenant in there and just keep it and just put it back to normal. If you do that, then keep that number. You might want a bigger number. It might
Right.
be your benefit to get an appraisal
Right.
to bring that number up higher than the 250, so you can now have more than $125,000 to fix your house.
Right.
See the strategy? You got to think about what it is.
Right.
If you're saying, I'm done, I'm never going to be first level again, what do you want that number to be? You don't want an appraisal, because then that number is going to go up higher. It's going to be harder to hit that threshold, and then you're going to have a harder threshold to reach to get the total out number, so you can rebuild the house, right? So you got to figure out what is in your best interest. What do you actually want to happen?
Right. Yeah, I don't know about y'all. My wife said I'm not moving back in that house now that she's lost everything, you know, so I got to do something. I don't know what. I'm in everybody else's shoes, you know.
Right.
I'm going to wait and see what the insurance payout is, how much money I have to work with there, and then I'll have to make some determinations. Am I going to try to pick the house up, which is an option, or am I going to just tear it down and build another one, or am I going to sell the property? So.
All right, let's talk about this perfect example. How many of us have said, screw it, I'm done, I'm never doing this again in the last couple weeks? A lot of us,
Yeah.
right? It's natural. Nobody here is allowed to do anything
Not right now.
for a while.
Gotta wait.
Right? Take a deep breath,
Yeah.
relax, let the emotions subside, okay? There are people doing really dumb things right now. There are people selling their house for a couple $100,000. As many of them have done it. They're like, I'm done. I call them scum-sucking vultures. If any of you are in the room, you're one of those, right? But you're taking advantage of people that are in an emotional situation and it's
Right.
wrong, right?
Right.
So if you're thinking about, like, I'm done, I'm out, do not do anything right now. Take a deep breath, right? And from your mortgage perspective, let's talk about this one. If you haven't yet, call your lender. Most of them will offer a forbearance, which is they'll just take your monthly payments, put a pause on them for 90 days and put them on the back of your loan.
Right.
You're gonna have to pay it eventually, but you can take the pain away for a minute right now so you can breathe, right? Because nothing like the pressure, you can't live in your house, you've got a mortgage payment coming out, you gotta find a place to live, you have no underwear, it just adds up and you're like, I'm done, right? Give me money and I'm out of here. So we've all had that, so stop it, right? From a friendly advice, don't do anything right now.
You know, it's just like anytime there's a traumatic event in your life, everybody says, don't do anything for 6 months.
Yep.
I mean, how many people have heard that? Don't do anything for 6 months to a year. That's where we are. But as Jeff mentioned, I mean, my mortgage payment came out on October 1st.
Yep.
I don't know about everybody else,
Yep.
but mine came right out. So, you know, to Jeff's point, you can contact your lender. Almost all of them offer some sort of forbearance program. All it does is it takes 90 days of note and it tacks it onto the end of the mortgage. So, you know, you're still gonna pay it, you just don't have to pay it right now, which is positive. I did want to say one thing. So I know a lot of people are upset with the FEMA 50% rule, and why do we have to do that, and why are the towns enforcing that, and their sons of bitches, they're making me tear my house down. But let me tell you, I don't know if any of you read in the paper about Lee County and FEMA threatening to remove their flood rating. Because when they were going through the damaged properties in Fort Myers Beach, they had a lot of non-compliant homes. Downstairs living areas were being utilized in elevated structures, which is a violation of FEMA rules, and they were gonna take away Lee County's 25% discount on flood insurance. Now, if you think flood insurance is expensive now, it would go up 25 to 30% if Madeira Beach loses their FEMA flood rating. That's why they're making you get the permits. That's why they're looking at the buildings and going with the 50% rule. They're doing it because they're defending their flood rating with FEMA. If we lose that, we all pay more money for flood insurance. So I just wanted to say that because a lot of people aren't aware of why the towns aren't being punitive. They're following FEMA guidelines in this case.
That's right. Very good. And we'll have anything else on this one until Q&A time, because I'm sure you're going to be the man of the hour for a lot of Q&A on that one real quick.
Quickest way to clear a room, what do? I sell insurance.
Now, you've been a huge resource through this whole thing, so thank you for all you've been doing.
No,
for
hey,
sure.
I'm in the same boat as y'all. So.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, brother. All right, so let's talk about options. What do we do? And the strategy of your 50% rule creates options. So we have a couple of different ideas that we could do here. So let's talk about, Bill, come on up here. And Bill Carnes, a friend of mine, business partner, And local guy, great person, can't say enough about him. So let's talk about options here. So we can do a lot of things. We can put our house back together, and we've got a couple of ideas about how we do that in a smart way. Is anybody tired of ripping out drywall and baseboards? Maybe we could do some other things that we can talk about how we flood-proof and mitigate a little bit our current homes. And then we have a current idea about option 2 is how do we pick them up? Right? Anybody thought about how do I just get pilings and pick my house up and put it on top? And what does that actually cost? We're going to talk about pros and cons about that one. And then the other thing is, screw it, I'm done. Does it make any sense just to build something? And what's the simple process for that? It's not a simple process, but what's the real process? What's the time of it and what's the cost? Because there's a lot of BS numbers being thrown around right now. Let's talk about the reality of that. So let's start from the beginning. If we want to fix our houses back up a little bit so we don't have these problems from a contractor perspective, what are some things we can do? If we are under our 50% threshold, it cost us 60 grand to fix our house, we get a check for 60 grand, we want to put that back into our house, we want to move back in a month and a half. What are some smart things we can do to our homes right now to make them livable and easy to fix next time?
Well, I appreciate that, Jeff. I think you're a prime example of what can be done to protect your investment. Over the last 4 floods, Jeff got tired of losing his ground floor, and he put flood-proof panels all the way around the structure. Any of the openings, windows, doors, didn't get a drop of water
Right.
during these storms. So if you want to fix your house up and put it back the way it was, my daughter lives on Johns Pass Ave, just finished a big remodel over there, everything wiped out. You know, they're emotional. Do I stay? Do I move? What do I do? So they're putting their house back together. And what I recommend is to go through all of those openings. Front door, rear door, any windows. Invest in the flood proofing. I think Jeff spent about $20,000, and it's a lot of money. But is it a lot of money compared to all this aggravation
No.
that we're all living right now? I don't think it is. So if you want to fix it up, that's what I would do. Over the years, I've built a lot of buildings and a lot of homes. Madeira Beach, Treasure Island, Reddington's. I've been doing it for 44 years. Proud to stand here and say the structures that I have built that are elevated, the damage that they received were maybe in their foyer on the ground floor, going up to the steps to the second floor, coming out of the garage. Houses are perfectly fine on the living levels. Over here on Bayshore Drive, right off of First Street, Jeff and I years ago tore down an old nasty apartment building, and we built 6 homes on there, elevated them. They're beautiful beach homes. They're about 1,300 square feet, elevated up 1 floor. None of those suffered any damage at all. A blessing, right? I've got condominium buildings that I've done up on 150th Avenue, over here on Gulf and 153rd. Again, all elevated, all built to Miami-Dade standards, which are a little stricter than the Florida building code. And I can probably say all of those buildings suffered very little water infiltration, never lost power, and most of the people stayed in those homes and rode it out safely. So, new construction, I think, is a much better option than elevating a home. Because when you elevate the house, you might hear numbers, 100,000, 170,000. That gets your house elevated up, but then you have to build out everything underneath it. If you want to have a garage, you have to enclose that. That's going to cost money. You have to redo all your mechanical systems, your HVAC, your electrical, and your plumbing, and you have to raise all them up. But what do I end up with at the end of the day? I end up with an old structure, low ceilings, old wiring, old everything, that's just been elevated. And when you add in all of the costs, I think for just a little bit more money, you can knock it down, build something new, and something that's gonna withstand storms like we've just experienced. So,
One point to add to that, Bill, you're gonna have a non-hurricane elevated home that was built in the 50s or 60s. That's not gonna be a safe structure at the end of the day. So it's, and how many of you have driven around town, you all live here, we've seen the houses that have been still stuck on the pilings for years now. And when they were told it was gonna cost 180 grand, they're close to 400 and something grand now, and they're still not in a house. And when they are in a house, it's a 1950s old non-hurricane compliant home that's just high up in the air. And most people I've talked to that have done that, I wish they didn't do it, right? So I don't have any dog in that at all, but I just can tell you that it's a pain, and nobody I've talked to is happy with the way that that's played out. And it costs way more, and you don't have a good product at the end of the day on that.
we have a variety of different properties in Madeira Beach. We've got a lot of waterfront properties, but we have a lot of interior lots. A lot of lots that are maybe a little small, you know, they're not as big, they're not as deep, they might be 50 by 80 or 40 by 80. Great opportunities there, because those homes are shot, I'll guarantee you, most of those homes that are ground floor are gonna exceed, especially the small ones, they're gonna exceed that 50% rule, and they're gonna have to come down. So those properties, to elevate them, you're probably looking about $350 per square foot for a new construction home, elevated up above. You can do 1 story or 2 stories above the floodplain, and get the finishes that you want. Get the impact rated windows. Get all the high efficient energy AC systems that are out there. There's a lot of money that's out there now. I know someone today that just applied for a 0% interest SBA loan because they can't afford to start their home until the renovation of it back, until the insurance company pays off. Jim, I've known him for 25 years, hates claims, can't stand a claim, doesn't want anyone to make a claim.
That's all I'm doing now.
That's all, that's right. So this is the payback for you. But the process to get the adjuster out, to get it, and they're bringing in adjusters from all over the country. There's so many, there's probably 2,000 businesses and homes just in Madeira Beach alone that have to all be inspected. They have to be re-permitted. The clog is gonna be so long, that's gonna take time. Patience is a virtue right now. So what we wanna do is take advantage of the SBA. They're doing 0% interest for 1 year. In that time, you can start putting your house back together again. And as soon as the insurance company pays off, and Jim, I don't know if it's gonna be a month or 2 months or 3 months, nobody knows.
No is the answer.
Now, the holdup on the flood claims
I'll repeat.
are the personal items. You gotta submit your list.
The holdup on the claims is gonna be your personal items. So if you're not submitting a detailed list of what you have, it's gonna slow down your check.
They have a form that you can fill out, a spreadsheet that lists all of the personal property items. And that form should be complete if you want to get reimbursed for your personal property. I'm saying the process takes time. If you go to the SBA, you can borrow that money, 0% interest,
Yeah.
and pay it off when the insurance pays it off.
Let's talk about pricing for a second, right? Because I hear a lot of people, I can get a house built for $210 a foot. I could bet one for $250. You guys have all heard it, right? I can build it for this, I can build it for that. One thing I think we just need to make sure we're all comparing apples to apples, because there's a big difference between what it is, right? You can build a house, maybe for that, but what are you gonna pay for your architecture fees and your survey and your soil test and your mechanical, electrical, plumbing, your landscaping, your pool, your appliances, your fixtures, right? So everybody has a spin on whatever they're doing, right? So you look at what do you have to do. If it's a cheap price, I promise you, it doesn't include a bunch of stuff. And once you finally come up with all the stuff added in, you're gonna end up at this number, right? It's just gonna happen. Now, you could save a little bit by, you can build with wood versus with concrete. You can pour solid concrete slabs if you want, or you could do wood joists. You could do a rooftop deck, or you could not do a rooftop deck. You put Sub-Zeros in, or you can put KitchenAid, right? You can do all kinds of Moen faucets or go to IKEA. Nothing wrong with any of them, but it also depends on what your finished product is. So that's why I think it's really important to know the reality of it. So from a budgeting perspective, 350 you think is a safe number?
I think so for nice finishes, not the top of the line finishes, but you know, we could go with builder grade fixtures, probably around $300 a square foot. And you want to do some upgrades, going to raise the price up. Post-COVID and during COVID, we saw a spike in building materials like you couldn't believe it. Afterwards, and supply chains, appliances were taking a year to get, windows were taking a year to get, so the jobs were dragging out during that period. Well, then when things went back to normal, the prices didn't go back down. The cement man's charging that price, the electrician's charging that price. So when it goes up, I don't care what it is, other than the stock market, rarely does it go down. So the cost of building today is much higher than it was back in 2020. So you have to really factor that in when you're making the decision. And then your finishes. We have houses that ended up $600 a square foot. Beachfront, high end, top of the line, everything. You know, it depends what you put in it. Pick out your materials, see what you like, and get a quote based off of what you want in your home. Not the builder standard, because no one's going to be happy with just the builder standard. The cheapest faucet, the cheapest cabinets, the cheapest windows, the cheapest. It doesn't pay in the long run.
Bill, let's talk about the process, because what he's talking about is way down the road, right? The first thing is you have a piece of dirt, right? If you want to rebuild, hopefully you have a piece of dirt because your house got totaled and you have a piece of dirt, right? So if you've got to start with that, but you need to get a survey, a current survey of your property. Everyone's going to ask you for that, and so guess what? Supply chain disruption is coming in a big time way, right? We're going to wait for everything because there's 2,000 houses being built at one time, right? So if you're going to do this, we'll help, whatever we can do to help, right? Anyway, get a survey, and then you're going to get that survey. You're going to have to go talk to the builder. You're going to go to the building department, which is pretty busy, by the way, and you have to confirm what are your side setbacks, what are your rear setbacks, what are your front setbacks, what's your height, right? All the things you're going to have to do, and that gives you your buildable rectangle, right? And then do you want a deck? How big is the deck? What are you going to do, side or front, rear? What style do you want, right? So you first start with a survey, then you got to, with that, then you're going to have to go sit with an architect and design your house, right? And you dream it up, whatever you want to do. You say, I just want a simple elevated rectangle, great, do that. If you want to be fancy and make it a pyramid, go do that. Your architect does that, right? And then once you have those plans done, then that's the floor plan. And then the work starts to happen. Then the checks start getting written because you have to do the engineering. Talk about MEP and what is all the steps that are needed here.
Structural engineering. There's
Soil test.
soil test.
Why do you need a soil test? What does that tell you?
Well, soil tests are going to tell you what substructure the surface is and how deep you're going to have to drive those pilings. And it's a combination of things that the structural engineer does that determines if it's 1 story or 2 stories. They calculate the weight, what needs to be supported. Madeira Beach, typically pilings go down somewhere between 30 and 40 feet into the ground. So these
Until you hit bedrock.
Yeah, so in residential structures, you'll see them driving the wood pilings in the ground. And when they hit resistance, there's an engineer standing there reporting every blow. When it gets down to, very minimal movement, then the engineer will sign off, and it's usually, like they say, somewhere right around 30, 35 feet, all along Madeira Beach here. Bigger structures that you see, some of those pilings have to go all the way down to bedrock, and those are concrete pilings that get driven, and they're usually somewhere around 50 to 55 feet before you hit bedrock. So the engineer determines that. You have to work with the architect, you have to work with the structural engineer, you have to work with the mechanical engineers for your electric, AC, and plumbing, and of course the architect to draw all the pretty pictures. So it's a process there to do it. I would encourage anybody at this time that is thinking about building something new to start that process, because it takes time. Anyone that wants to rebuild, follow the process. Anne-Marie did a great job of explaining how that process works. Have to get a demo permit. Got to get a demo permit. Do your wall cuts and move your cabinets and everything like that, and then it has to get inspected. Once that's done, then you can go get a permit to put your house back together. If you don't follow that process, you're going to run into problems with the city, you know, everything has to be done correctly.
Okay. Okay, got it. If anybody has a Hyundai and you block the first 2 cars, please go move it. That was the PSA service announcement on that one. But talk about, let's go back to I know everyone's doesn't want to go do the permitting process, but if you've demoed and you didn't get a permit process, she said, we don't care, just please go get one now, because when you don't and you start putting it back up, you're gonna have to take it back out. Because I don't know if you noticed, there's 80 gazillion code enforcement officers, and there's gonna be more driving around because they have to. And if you put all your stuff up and you didn't get a demo permit, guess who's taking all that stuff back out? And gonna have to pay to put it all back in again, right? So please do that. The questions are specific FEMA questions, and I'm not really qualified to answer at that level, at those questions. So there's a City Hall workshop, Mayor Brooks, Wednesday, what time? When is it, Town Hall? When? Next week? Next week, 5 to 7 at City Hall with the city building officials to answer those type of questions. I just don't have I don't even want to speak to something I'm not schooled in that one, so.
The other thing everyone can do is go on the FEMA website, and there's a variety of different grant programs that are available. It's not a whole lot of money, but it's worth your time to go on there. You can get $750, you get $2,000 from FEMA for the losses that we've had. Worth your time to go on there and submit those applications. That's an important thing to do too.
Let's talk about how do we do this, right? So back to this process. You're getting everything designed. You're going to ask Bill, hey Bill, what does it cost to build me a house? He's going to say, which house, right? And then you're going to have to go do everything we just talked about with an architect and the engineers, so you can give him the actual plans to really bid, because he takes your plans and gives it to the roofer, and he gives it to the electrician, he gives it to the plumber, gives it to the structurer guy, gives it to the appliance guy, and then you get all the numbers back, and then and only then can tell you how much your house is going to cost. You guys got that? So you got to do all these steps, these steps first, right?
That's where all the variables are. Do you want to do a shingle roof? Do you want to do a tile roof? Do you want to do a standing seam metal roof?
I did
all
already.
different prices. Going to affect the bottom line. Same thing with your windows. You know, variety of different products: wood windows, vinyl windows, casement windows, double hung windows.
After 30 days, you can also file
Important
property
when you're
tax
designing a house that you think about
If you're at it
what
for
the
30
style
days.
is. The exterior is going to be stucco. Is it going to be a shiplap, like a hardy board siding, cement board?
1/12 a year
You know, you're
property
just
tax
gonna put vinyl
for that
siding
month,
on
for the
it
time
on
it's
the
out
outside.
of use.
All these things determine the total cost of the house, so there's a widespread of pricing that's involved.
Okay, let's talk about that. So once now you have a price, and it's going to come somewhere in the $350 range when you put everything together. right? One last thing, that double parked car, please move it before somebody blows it up. That was what I was asked to say this time. Okay, so once you have the plan and it's all priced, now you have to figure out how the heck am I gonna pay for this? Right, is that a pretty interesting question? Right, so what our friends from Beachline Mortgage are coming up, don't leave yet because we need you here, but I wanna go through an example of how this actually works, right? So I'm gonna use Josh, one of my neighbor, as an example. I was just talking to him before he came up here today. He's the one that got the adjuster that came out and said, you're totaled, right? You're gonna get a $250,000 claim, and he's like, awesome, but then the follow-up question is, well, what's your mortgage? Well, the mortgage is 400 and something. Not awesome, right? Because you have a mortgage on the house and you're gonna get the claim. Who's gonna get that $250,000? The mortgage company. And then you still have a shortage of a couple $100,000 that you owe on the property. So you got a puzzle to figure out, like, what do I do now, right? So you still owe somebody a couple $100,000. Fortunately for him, it's a nice piece of dirt that's on the water, and it's worth $600-700-ish, whatever the number ends up being. But that's a good thing. So if you start looking at the numbers there, so let's say he owes $200,000 on the mortgage, just hypothetical numbers. And let's say the lot is worth $600,000, hypothetical number. So there's $400,000 in equity, right? So when we go to the lender and we're trying to get a construction loan, that's gonna play very well into his favor, because he's now gonna be able to go to the lender and say, I have equity, and I'm gonna build a house for $600,000, right? Let's say he does all this stuff and Bill comes back and says a $600,000 mortgage, $600,000 house. He's gonna go to the lender's gonna say, give me 20% down. 20% on a $600,000 house is $120,000, and he's gonna say, thank goodness, will you take my dirt and use my dirt as equity towards my down payment on my construction loan? And the current lender is gonna say no, because I loaned you on that house. So now he's gonna go to a new lender and say, will you loan me money to build a house? And they're gonna say, well, do you have a loan now? And he's gonna say, yeah. And they're gonna say, well, we have to take that mortgage out. So now let's get a new loan as a construction loan, which will take out that $200,000, plus we'll start paying Beach Builders on the draw schedule to start building the new house. So if the foundation costs $75,000 and his first mobilization fee is $100,000, so there's gonna be a $175,000 mortgage payment, right, mortgage balance due, and that's gonna start the construction. That will fund Bill to start the draw process on the house. And then as the progress completes, then they're gonna check it out and make sure Bill did what he was supposed to do. And then he's gonna say, hey, may I please have another $100,000? And the lender's gonna say, did you do what you're supposed to do? And he's gonna say, yes, ma'am. And she's gonna say, okay, here's your next $100,000. Now his mortgage is now gonna be not the 175, it's now 275, right? And then he gets another draw schedule later, now it's 375. So his mortgage payment is gonna increase as the loan balance increases. And then when the home's finished, the city's gonna come out and make sure Bill did a good job, and he's gonna get a certificate of occupancy. And then once he gets a certificate of occupancy, means the house is done, it's safe, it's ready to move into, now he can actually convert that mortgage into a permanent loan. So it's called a construction to permanent loan, right? And then all of a sudden he's gonna be locked in for the next 30 years in his new payment for his new home, and it all worked out. But you gotta follow all these steps in order to make this happen. Does that make sense? Right, on this one? You guys wanna add anything?
Can I ask a question to everyone that's in the room? I know a lot of people that have mortgages on their homes. When you have a mortgage on your house, the mortgage company is gonna, force you to have flood insurance on that property. How many of you own your house free and clear, didn't have flood insurance, and lost everything? Just show of hands. Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people that are affected, and
Do me a favor and tell everybody in the back that if they're not here worried about their house, they can go somewhere else because we can't hear.
yes, ma'am,
Yes.
Jerry.
Yes.
Do it.
Hey, you turn that up? Anybody in the back in the game room, I've been asked to say, if you're not here and you don't care about a house, a lot of people here do and they're trying to listen, so if you could please keep your conversations maybe to the outside deck, just for a little while longer, it would be appreciated by a lot of people in the back that are here to listen.
Thank you.
All right, So did I summarize the construction perm process? That's coming up for a quick second, and then, because I'm gonna hit a couple situations, we're gonna hit some scenarios. This is a perfect scenario where he had a little extra equity. We're gonna talk about what happens when you don't, because there's a lot of people in the room that don't have enough equity, and there's gonna be a whole different strategy about what you do when you owe more than what the home is worth, and it's gonna be difficult to build. So there's strategies to do that too. So, Kim, come on up. Let's, hey, you can sit. Bill, thank you very much for coming back up. Yeah, come over here.
Hi, everybody.
Get close to it.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right, good. There's just one thing I wanted to add to that construction loan that's the one-time close, is that during the time of construction, the loan also covers your actual payment. So you don't have to make payments during construction period at all. So it's, if you're in that situation where your home is fully, you know, for better sake of words, is condemned, and you have to scrape it, a one-time close construction actually gets you back into construction, and you don't have to make mortgage payments on that loan.
So your down payment will be all you have to come up with for the term of the construction?
You don't have to come up with any money. So, you know, it's gonna be based off of the value of the house after it's constructed. So just think with the faster we move this process, the more we have comparables to actually use, the comparables that were there prior to the destruction of all these houses. So let's get it moving faster, not think slower, get moving, going faster to rebuild these houses so that the value stays where the value was. Make sense? Because by the time you get done, you could have earned a couple million in equity because of the way you rebuilt your home. So.
Great idea. So how do you get started? By the way, at the end of this, we have a group right there. Wave your hands, Stephanie and Trish and everything sitting in the back there. There's a piece of paper down there that says, I would like some more information on X, Y, or Z, whether it's lifting, whether it's building, whether it's financing, whatever it would be, or flood panels, or whatever it is, and just fill it out. And what we're gonna do is get to everybody tomorrow, right? As long as name, phone number, and we will reach out with all the questions. You can stick around, we'll be here for as long as we need to tonight, but there's also a way to put your name down so we can make sure we get back to you and answer all the questions, because I know you're gonna come up with more and more and more on this one too. But
What was your name?
I'm Kim Schneider, yeah.
Kim,
I also, we did some little packages, they're sitting right there on the desk back there too.
guys,
Yeah.
yes, came with Beachline Mortgage,
Yeah.
fantastic. We use them all the time. They're local out here on the island, and they just do a great job, and they're just a great resource. So figuring out how to structure these loans is important because, guys, nobody knows what to do. We've never been in this situation before. But to this point, let me hit the supply chain disruption scenario a little bit harder, because architects are going to be slammed. Engineers are going to be slammed. Drywall is going to be hard to find. Windows are going to be hard to find. Dishwashers are going to be hard to find. Refrigerators are going to be hard to find. We saw it during COVID, and we didn't have 2,000 houses being built. Now we're going to have 2,000 houses being built at the same time. So this is really something to get on quickly. If you want to do it, start the application process, at least talk to, whether it's Beachline or anybody else, just get going if you want to do this and figure out which way you want to go first, right? So.
Correct. So one of the things that the gentleman prior to me was bringing up was the SBA. So I worked with the SBA directly during the COVID disaster relief program.
That's terrible.
And the money runs
They're just
out.
gonna print another trillion.
And today the money ran out. Now it doesn't mean that they're not gonna have more money available, but SBA really is the fastest way to get money in your pocket. Because how many people here have gotten money from their insurance company yet? Is there anybody? You got, no.
You got some?
I don't think, did the gentleman
Two
back
or
there
three.
get money in the green?
We
Oh,
got
that's awesome.
3 hands.
Okay, good. Did you get enough, or was it just the first draw? Just the
Advance.
first draw?
Yeah.
So they're giving a little bit of money, you know, to get you going, but how much does that do? So I really recommend getting on to mysba.gov and doing your application, because even though they ran out of money today, Congress will for sure renew that money. You want to get your application in line. They do it based off of application date. So you want to get in there and you want to apply. Do all of their little steps. Be careful. Get all of your documents in line up front. Don't get on there till you're ready. Because what has happened in the past is a lot of fraud. So the SBA and the government is very cautious. They watch for how you're working and on the internet. I mean, you think that the government has spying eyes. They actually kind of do. So make sure you're ready and that you know what you know so that you can apply correctly. You don't want to be acting like somebody who could be doing fraud, because somebody that could be doing fraud might be trying to figure it out. Do you see? So you need to sit down with your documents. You need to make sure you're applying with all of the stuff that they say that you need up front. If you have questions, just email. We'll send you an email so that you know what you need in front of you, okay? Really, it's your personal data. You should know that like this. What's your name? What's your last name? What's your social security number? What's your date of birth? You should know this, okay? So don't be stopping in the middle going, oh, I'm gonna take a second. No, make sure you apply to sit down and apply for that SBA Gov loan, okay? Because they're looking for that kind of stuff. And it's really to protect you, okay? The second thing is that that's the fastest way to money truly normally is the SBA. They would get you that money within, a couple of weeks. You'd have, half of your insurance draw. So if they say that your insurance money's $250, you'd get $125. And they give you up to $500,000. So if your insurance money said that you were $1 million, you'd get $500,000. So you definitely want to do this, and you want to get your application in line. Make sense?
Yes.
All right. So that's the first thing you do, because I don't care that they said they're out of money. You apply no matter what. mysba.gov. Do all of the application. Make sure you do all of they do kind of a security system. Do the security. It's for your benefit, okay? So, and also, do not take a phone call from somebody that says they are the SBA without you confirming. There's a lot of fraudsters out there. I had one call me today. Do not take those calls. Question where they're calling you from. Google the telephone number. If it says it's from some strange thing and it doesn't say SBA.gov, do not call them back and don't give them your personal data. Number two, that was number two, okay? Number three, if you don't have the SBA Gov money right this second, we don't know when Congress is gonna come back. So the second step is to do what Jeff was talking about. Get yourself in line with your engineer, make sure you get your permits pulled. Make sure you start to come up with what do you wanna do? Because if we don't know what you want to do, how do you get the next thing, which is called money, to actually build what you want to have? Make sense? So follow those lines. Get your engineer, make sure you've had your inspections done, make sure you've got your plan, and stick with that, okay? Because that plan then can come back over to us, and we then take that plan, and we can submit it for a loan. But we have to know what you want to do in order to do it, because sometimes the loan is faster than any of these things that could happen. Make sense? So the faster you get going, the more that you're going to be back in your house in a timely fashion.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Because there's another loan that we have. It's a disaster. Sorry, this thing's yelling at me.
We're buzzing.
Yeah. All right. So there's other types of loans. Because how many people in here own their home free and clear? Yeah, there's a lot.
Yes.
So there's a loan that is a disaster loan. It's called a 203H. It's actually backed by the FHA. It gives you up to 97% of the actual value up to the FHA loan limit, which is only $500,000, but that's still what gets you in and starting on construction. And it doesn't matter that you already own a home over here, because all we need is the insurance claim showing that you actually applied and that you are in this situation. And it gives you all the construction money too, or you can buy a new house. I don't care which one you decide you want to do. You need housing? Fine, go buy a house. You get 100% financing to buy a brand new house, so you're not living homeless for the year that it takes you to rebuild. Make sense? So if it's going to take you a year, now what do you do with this house after you own it? Oh gosh, I got a rental property. Okay, what a great idea. Okay, so this gives you 100% financing right now. Don't care about your debt service, because once we know that you have a claim here, we move forward here, and you don't have to try to budget for both houses. Make sense? Financing, okay, right.
Huge.
This also goes for renters. How many renters are in this room? Any renters? Okay, renters. The same thing goes for you. 100% financing for renters that were harmed in the disaster. 100% financing.
What's the loan
As
limit
well.
on that?
$498,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
So up to almost $500,000, 0% interest, or zero down.
Zero down.
Zero down,
I
sorry.
wish it was 0%,
Yes.
by the way.
Yes.
It's not quite.
Yeah.
So, I know, it would be great. Now the SBA, to be honest with you, their loan that they give you is 2.37% interest. You can't get much more freer than that. The first 12 months, you don't have to make a payment, but the interest rate is 2.37 for home buyers. But this also works for businesses. How many of you are business owners? Okay, so the same claim you can do for the business. If your business was harmed and you can show that there was economic duress or any type of physical property duress, you can also get money from the SBA. So no matter who it is, you apply once for your personal, once for the business. You can have any number of loan applications for those two items, okay? And it's for homeowners that own their home. It's your primary residence is the homeowner's SBA loan, okay? So if it's an investment, what do you do if it's your investment property? Anybody own an investment property that has been completely demolished? Okay, so what do you do for those? I know it's a great question, huh? Now, it depends, okay? This is a great question, okay? SBA does help business owners. So if your home is held in an LLC and you actually have an actual corporation that's actually holding all of those properties, depending, which is, I'm just going to preface, depending on whether or not they think that you're an actual business, you can actually get money for that. And it can go for economic duress or rebuild up that property. So it's really just about how many. Do you just own one? Is it just one property? Do you own 10? Is it a corporation that you actually have the whole business on? What is it? So that's what's going to make the difference when you go apply for the business side of the SBA. So anybody that is in that situation, you can always, again, if you want to reach out, I can actually help advise what you've got going and decide from you, to help with personal situations directly. Because sometimes it's hard, like in a forum like this, to be able to address, okay, what is your situation? It's kind of like going to the doctor. We don't all have the same disease or whatever, okay? So, any other things you'd like to bring up?
Anybody learning something new tonight? That's all. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Look, nobody's happy about what happened, but guess what? It happened. Now what do we do to get ahead, right? And we're gonna rebuild. What's the most cost-effective, efficient way? Because guys, one thing's for sure: this storm will pass, and the grass will be green again. Everything will be better again, and we just wanted to make sure you're in a better place than you are right now, right? And we're gonna be able to do that.
Correct.
So, awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Very good.
Jeff.
Also appreciate that you too. All right. Let's talk about the not so pretty situations, right? And I'm going to invite two people up on this one. Tom Abraham, he's the attorney. Ooh, attorneys, oh man. But there's a difference. There's the attorneys that you don't like because they're not working for you, and there's the attorneys that you do like that teach you how to work on your behalf, right? So Tom is one of my personal real estate attorney and a forever friend. And somebody I trust implicitly, and most importantly, he's been through this situation and hurricane disasters in the Panhandle before, so he's been able to see, he knows where we are, and he knows where we're heading in a month from now, and 2 months, and 3 months from now, and the problems coming with the insurance companies, and the lenders, and the loans, and the crap, right, that we're all about, it's coming down the path that we're on. So I asked Tom to come to kind of share some information with us about that one. But before we does that, Mike, can you come up here too? My buddy Mike Wyckoff, come on up, and we'll share. What's that?
Get my big ass up here.
So Mike's a buddy of mine. He's another real estate broker in town, and we're just collaborating to kind of bring this all together, bring as much information as we can. So one of them, I want to start with Mike first, Tom, and then bring you in. So Mike, you come over to the mic here.
All right, Mike to the mic.
Mike to the mic.
All right.
So we're going to talk about values for a minute, because the values right now suck, right? Because real estate values are determined by one thing: what a buyer is willing to pay based on whatever else is available to them on the day they decide to buy. Boom, right? The buyers that are out there in the market right now are scum-sucking vultures, okay? And you don't have Bob and Mary and the kids and the white picket fence looking for their dream cottage getaway. They're just not, they're coming, but they're not here this week, they're not here this month, they're not here next month, right? So I want to talk about the ugly truths about what we're seeing right now, and we did a bunch of research on it. I'm going to show you examples about what stupid decisions people are doing right now. And we really want you not to. A caveat to that, if you're in a situation where you have no choice, first of all, talk to us because we're going to convince you that's not true, right? And you just learned a lot from Kim about different resources that you have. So there's no desperation to do anything right now. And whether you work with us or not, we don't care. We're here to help you, right? So the values, I've seen it, you've seen it. Let's talk about the ugliest. What are people doing that you've seen right now that they shouldn't be doing?
I just heard about one today in Treasure Island on Olive Capri. Beautiful house on a great lot, waterfront, new seawall, new dock. They just sold it for $550,000 today.
On the water. Thank you.
Huge mistake. They've already gone past the point of no return, so they're stuck with what they've got. It's super unfortunate. We're encouraging you to let us help you. This is not for us to make money off of you. We want to stop you from losing money. If somebody presents you with an offer, call one of us, one of our team. We'll look at that contract and tell you if it's crazy or not. There are so many things that contribute to the value of your property that you may not think of because you're surrounded by the mess and everything that you own out in the front yard, and it's a highly emotional situation that we're all in. Same in my driveway, right? So you got to look at things like, you have a swimming pool, is your seawall in good shape, is your dock okay, do you have boat lifts? All those things contribute to the value that a builder, if they're coming in to build a new house, it's already done for them. So those things have value. You should get compensated for those things. So don't let the sheer emotion go, I'm out, this is BS, I'm tired of it, and you want to walk away. Let us come and consult with you and show you the things that are of value. We are making a new market right now. That's the hardest part of this right now, is the waiting game to understand and see where transactions are going to start to happen so that you can build a comparable base to understand what the values are. We're seeing new listings hit the market every day. We have, our computer systems are set up to tell us as things hit the market. We're watching them happen, and as we see them go under contract, we're going to start to know what number flips that switch, and we're going to need a little bit of time to see that market be made. But I'm encouraged by the numbers that I'm seeing on the listings that are coming out there. People are getting good advice from their trusted advisor, their realtor. And I'm not saying it has to be one of us. There are some great realtors. I see a bunch of them in the room. So go to those people that you know and trust and let them at least have a look at it and let you know where you should go from a price perspective.
I'm gonna show you the role play of what the scum sucking vultures are doing right now, right? Because I know one down my street sold for in the low 200s, right? They should not have done that. That was a stupid move, right? They left money on the table. But here's the pitch. So, hey Mike, I'm buying houses. I got $1 million in cash. It's in my car. I only have $1 million. There's hundreds of houses for sale. I'll give you $250 for your house right now.
Right now?
Right now.
Right now.
I've got a notary with me, right? I'll deposit it in your bank account. You'll have it tomorrow morning. Give me your house. That's it. Sign the quitclaim deed. Money deposit will go to your bank right now. And right now, and I'll put the money in there. That's happening.
Yeah.
And people are saying, okay, and that's a knee-jerk, stupid reaction. Don't do it. People they're gonna regret it. $250,000 is what they're selling non-waterfront lots for on this island right now.
And that person's going to take that contract and sell it to somebody else because they don't actually want your house.
That's number one, is the real person will buy that. There are people that will really buy it. Now the other thing is coming saying, hey Mike, here's a contract on your house. And then if you're not well versed in reading 87 pages of legalese bullshit, you're not going to notice it buried in the contract. Buried inside the contract is going to be something that allows them to flip that contract, and they have no obligation to buy it. A guy saw me yesterday, was at our Tampa office, and a guy walked in, right, to the office and wanted to talk for a couple of minutes, so I listened to him, and he said, here's what I'm doing, man, right? And he's walking in and saying, I'm going to the buyer, I'm putting it under contract, I have 60 days to close, right? And during those 60 days, right, I have the opportunity to flip it because I bought it with assignability. One little box checked on page 6 that nobody even looks for. Now he has the opportunity to flip and sell that house. He says, I put zero money down, I tell the sellers what they need to hear, and now I have a 60-day free look at a low price on that house. If I don't flip it in 60 days, I walk away and I have no exposure, and if I do sell it to somebody else, I get to pick the extra money, and they're taking your equity.
Yep, so
And it's not right.
they just stole your equity.
Right, and it's not right. Okay, so do not let them happen. The other thing they're gonna do, and Tom will talk about this in a minute, is the subject twos, right?
Yep.
So, hey, Mike, this is what I wanna do. I got $100 grand, here's $100 grand, why don't you just give me your house? I'll take over your payments. You go back to Texas, have a wonderful life. Don't worry about your payments anymore. I'll deal with all of the crap. I'll deal with your insurance. You never have to make a payment again. Now, you're quietly going to be behind the scenes, but don't worry about that. It's perfectly legal. Here's the forms. Talk to your attorney. It's a legal thing to do. And people are doing this right now, and they're leaving. Now, what they don't know is that they're still on the hook for that mortgage, and when that person doesn't make a payment, they're going to get foreclosed upon and could lose the house. Right?
And it also shows up on their credit report and counts against them if they apply for another mortgage somewhere else.
Because their debt-to-income ratio
Because their
is
debt to
still out
income
there,
ratio will be out of whack.
right?
Jeff, I want to interrupt with something totally off this subject for just a second that I've been thinking of the last day or two in anticipation of this. How many of you here have a multi-family property in Madeira Beach or in the beaches? Okay, I'm seeing several. There's something really important that you guys need to know. Don't tear the house down before you get a permit to build a new house if you're going to tear it down. I can tell you most of our lots in Madeira Beach are substandard size. They're non-conforming. Almost every single property in Madeira Beach that's multifamily is grandfathered. It's called a continuous non-conforming use. I'm telling you this because I'm the chairman of the planning commission for Madeira Beach, and we see people come in asking for a variance after the fact, say, oops, I tore the house down and I want to put 2 units back on this 40 by 100 foot lot. You need at least 6,000 square feet of dirt to put a duplex on Madeira Beach. If you tear the house down, you have wiped out your grandfathering at that point, and you will not get the permit to build 2 units. So do not tear that duplex or triplex or quad down until, if that's your plan, until you get the permit to build the next one, because they will allow that to be continued, but once you stop it, you've stopped it forever.
One more point you break up, a good point. So let's say I have one of these legally non-conforming houses, which they were built before all the zoning rules came into place, is what that means, right? So if you were to try to build that today, not happening, because it violates the side setbacks, the rear setbacks, the front setbacks, and it's got this weird thing sitting on especially smaller lots in town.
Yep.
They're sitting on 3-foot setbacks on the sides, but nobody cared back in 1958. It was just build your fisherman cottage and have a nice day. But now it's a legally non-conforming use, and the way planning and zoning works right now is if I own that, I can now go to my architect and I can say, here's my survey with the current structure, the way it's sitting with the current setbacks. I want to build that exact same structure on that exact same setbacks of my legally non-conforming use. And the planning and zoning will say, okay, right?
Yes.
So I can use those creeping setbacks to build a bigger, smaller, whatever it would be, the way it currently sits in that footprint. You tear it down, bye-bye.
You've
right?
lost it. Yeah,
And
you
it's
would then
temporary.
have to be, they can't stop you from building a property on a small lot, right? Even if the lot is substandard for a single family home, that would be considered a government taking of your property with no compensation. So they will allow you to build, but you'll have to conform to all the setbacks. And there's some lots, 145th, 146th, they're 40 by 50. And if you have a 20-foot front setback, a 15-foot rear setback, and 7-foot side setbacks, you're gonna try and live in it, right? It's gonna be the smallest thing you've ever seen. So again, that's another one. Don't tear the house down until you get the permit to build the next one, because as long as that house is still standing, you can use that footprint for the elevated structure. So your slab and everything, garages, can all exist within that footprint, and then you go up.
Right. All right, a couple things I printed out this morning, right, as far as lots and what they're going for right now. Current value, that's what I'm saying, don't do anything right now because these values suck. Current value of non-waterfront lots are $250,000, $300,000, right? Because people smell blood in the water and that's all they were willing to pay for your lot. If you're tempted to take that, please talk to us and please don't. If you have to, talk to us, we'll try to talk you out of it, right? If you really, really have to, we'll buy it, right? But we're not gonna let you do that. Please don't do that. Prices suck. It's a $600,000 price point on a waterfront lot. They're worth way more than that in a normal world. We're just not in a normal world right now. So take the breather, get the forbearance, spend the time, go to SBA, get some money, take a relax pill, and then wait for another couple months to come back, and the green will come back, and the trash is off the streets, and it'll smell a little better, and we'll be back to normal, right? So that's the point. So don't sell your house for $250,000, $300,000. But here's the tough part. If you go through, I'm going to go through an example. You're not going to like this, but I'm going to tell you this example, right? So this is a new construction house that's sitting down in Boca Chica Drive area, right? You know it real well. It's a 1,332 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bath home that's been sitting on the market for.
It's my listing.
I wasn't gonna say
Son of a
that.
bitch.
I wasn't gonna say that, Mike. You
It's
busted yourself.
13122 4th Street East. It took no damage. It's solid concrete block from top to bottom. No damage. $785,000. You can move in tomorrow.
Here, by the way, Mike.
This moment brought to you by Engel and Volker's Madeira Beach.
Century 21 listings actually sell. All right. Oh.
Come on,
But go through the numbers here, right? So building it, this is the scary part about right now. If you were to build that house, a 1,332 square foot house at $350 a square foot, it's going to cost you $600 a foot is what they're selling it for. There's no way you have an interior lot that you can go to an architect and engineer and design a nice house, 1,300 square foot lifted above the ground. You're going to pay more than that. You're going to make no money. The house is not selling, right? And no fault of anybody, it's a weird market right now. But if you try to duplicate this, you're going to be in trouble because no one's buying it. Right?
Now
So
accepting offers.
right? And it's a good deal because you can't replace it for that price, right? So when you think about this one, it doesn't make sense to build at this exact moment. Now, with that same breath, I'm building one 2 doors down for me. But it's not going to be ready for another 14 months. I'm betting on a much better market 14 months from now, right? So I know for sure it's going to be a way better market. If you ever studied catastrophic hurricane real estate markets that get hit, which we've got offices from the Keys all the way to Panama City, Pensacola, right? So I got a lot of read on a lot of marketplaces. 14 months is the average time from hit to recovery when values are where they were and a little higher than they were pre-impact, right? That's
And it's
just a
done it
fact.
every single time.
Every single time, right? So this is the little bumpy road that we're in, but guess what? By the time you design, survey, permit, build, and get a CO on a house, you're not gonna have it done in 14 months. You're not. So this is the time to get started and get going, get a very favorable interest rate, loan program, get the architect, get the engineer, and build something if you're able to on that one, right? So that's the value situation. So, all right, anything else to add on that?
No, thanks for throwing me directly under the bus. though. I appreciate that.
You did it to yourself and it's recorded so I can show you that.
I'm going to show the owner this, so because he knows I was talking about it.
Yes. All right, so now let's talk, and you can stay up if you want to. So Tom Abraham, come on up here. So here's the situation. So you've been through this, you've seen this, the good, the bads, the uglies. He goes through all different stages and he's seen people in the worst of situations that are losing their home. And let's talk about the ugly reality of what's gonna happen. If somebody has a home and it didn't hit the 50% threshold, right? And there's not enough money to rebuild it, or they did hit it and they can't rebuild it, they don't have the credit, they don't have the loan, they don't have the desire, they don't have the wherewithal to do it. They've got a $400,000, I was talking with somebody the other day, bought a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 750 square foot bungalow, not far from here, 2 years ago for $550,000. Right? You know what do you think the FEMA letter is on a 750 square foot wood frame bungalow built in 1953 is?
About 140,000.
About 140, which means you got about $70,000 worth of repairs to a property that's not going to be repaired for $70,000. It was knocked off of its foundation, right? And actually this one was not. So $70,000, no, not here. But there's a problem there. So they have a mortgage of $500,000, a flood policy of $250,000, a FEMA letter for $60,000. What do you do? That spells disaster. And we got to be realistic about what's happening in those situations. So we want to talk about, because some of you are in that position right now. So Tom, you've seen that, you've been there, you've done that. How do you help people? Tell us what you've been through before.
Okay, so my experience, I've done Hurricane Harvey. I was pulled over to Harvey in Houston. I've seen and was part of a lot of the aftermath of Hurricane Michael in Panama City. So my experience is a little bit different from what you've been hearing thus far, because when people are coming to me, it's at the end when things have gone wrong, right? So nobody's coming to me when, hey, everything worked out and we're happy and all that. So let me start with some general advice first, because we're in phase one. This is phase one. It just happened. We're still trying to figure out what to do. So first piece of advice, do not sign anything without talking to somebody who knows about the document.
Yes.
Okay? So that goes to what we're talking about, selling property under market. That goes to dealing with insurance companies. That goes to dealing with contractors, buyers, you name it. If somebody's giving you something for you to sign, do not sign. It's an old thing my father once said, just say, I've got to sleep on it. Don't sign that day, okay? So think about it, sleep on it, call trusted advisors who know what they're talking about, and make sure you know what you're doing and what you're getting into. Okay, so that's step one. Step two is we're very early, which means that you have to now reach out to all the people. There's a lot of party. It's a lot of work is what it seems like, because it's not easy. You have insurance. If you have insurance, you've got to call them. So flood insurance, property insurance. Even I was thinking about automotive insurance. You know, we hear about Teslas blowing up and stuff like that, right? So you got to call auto insurance. And we don't know, right now we're dealing with one insurance company saying, well, we're not covering that because that's their job. And they're saying they're not covering that because it's their job. So there's a little bit of, roller coaster ride coming with that. The second part is if you have a mortgage, reach out. Remember, we know what we've been through. We see the storm, we see the results, but there is no law that says any lender has to work with you, okay? Unless it's government, right? But private, banks and credit unions, there's no law that says they have to do anything. So this is a negotiation. This is calling them. This is laying out what happened, what your situation is, and trying to get some sort of abatement or modification. These things take time. What does it mean? You have to submit documents, a lot of process to it, right? So insurance, lender, and then now you're gonna get into the other part of it, which is the construction and the contracting, and you're getting into a point where you're looking at a number. If you look at your insurance and you say, I have this much insurance, it doesn't mean you're getting that. And it doesn't mean that in today's market, with high prices for materials, supplies, labor, it's like, somebody said, hey, can you find me a roofer? I said, good luck right now, right? So it's the same issue. Just because you have coverage doesn't mean that coverage is enough to take care of what you need to take care of, okay? So you would hope so. Some cases, people are overinsured, some underinsured. But by the time I'm getting a case, it's because these things weren't followed and people were not looking out for themselves. And I know it sounds kind of odd, because I'm actually amazed at the number of people that came out. I see the community, I see people looking out for each other in the community. But remember one thing, whether it's your insurance company or whether it's your lender or anybody you're working with, everybody only looks out for themselves, okay? So, which means you have to be your own advocate. You have to be looking out for yourself when you're dealing with these things, which kind of goes back to don't sign. Somebody says, oh, just sign this. Everybody's looking out for themselves. So just keep, and I'm not demonizing anybody or insurance or lenders or any of that stuff, even though I don't like any of them, but but I say that, and there are good people in the insurance business and good people in the lending business. But what I'm saying is always keep the mindset to look out for yourself, because only your advisors are the ones looking out for you. Anybody you're dealing with, they're looking out for themselves. And you're dealing with big companies. When we talk about insurance companies, we're not talking about the biggest company in Florida. We're talking about biggest companies on earth, right? When we're talking about lenders, we're not talking about somebody down the street lending money. These are the biggest lenders on earth that are behind these loans. So there is no humanity to it. they're not concerned of what happened to your home and your belongings and you lost everything. That's not how they think, and don't expect that. Just look out for yourself. Just make sure you're watching what you're getting into, okay? Now, to go to the next part of it, which is what happens if you owe too much on your property, okay? And the
Tom,
values
real
are
quick.
down.
Hey, real quick, I'm gonna say one more time for the people in the back, please. If you're not here for this, sorry, but a lot of people are and they really wanna hear what's going on. So if you could maybe move to the outside bar or to the background, it's very important. A lot of people who lost freaking everything, and this is an important topic, so please keep it down and respect that. Thank you. Okay.
So we've got different, I mean, and every case is different. Your case is different, how much you owe. Maybe you don't owe anything. Maybe you owe a lot. Maybe this has disrupted your business income, your job. So all these things are going to affect your decision making. But one thing you can do, there's always options. It's not, any of these situations all have solutions. So sometimes it just takes negotiating. So when I'm talking about insurance companies and I'm talking about lenders, even though, yes, they're big, but they negotiate just like anybody else, okay? So don't feel down that you're, underwater, there's nothing else you can do and, you're gonna give up. No, it's negotiation time when it comes to that. So you're in phase one, you're submitting your claims, you're getting the adjusters out. You probably haven't even gotten any responses from any insurance companies other than emergency work, right? Tarps and doors and cleanup. So you have not gotten to the stage where they're adjusting your property yet and even doing the analysis of the 50% rule, which that's a different animal. But when you get to that stage, that's a whole analysis that you're doing where you're going, okay, here's what they're approving, here's what they're willing to pay, and now comes the analysis is, will this work for me? Or is this even fair? Is this right? And then you have your lender who's going, well, we're the additional insured, so if the money's coming, really it has to come to us first. So it's not, money to you if you have a lender. The lender itself is the additional insured along with you. So it becomes like this partnership decision you have with your lender as to what's going to happen. So, but one quick scenario that I wanted to discuss that I think we were talking about with the sales and the subject to and investors coming in. Okay, again, it goes back to just a quick subject to. If somebody says, okay, my house is worth $500,000, I owe $300,000 on it, okay, and an investor comes and says, look, I'll give you $100,000 on top of your loan, right, and I'll take over your loan. There are legal ways to assume mortgages where the responsibility can be shifted from you to the new buyer, right? But the way most of the, and I'll call it the real estate gurus out there are teaching this stuff is wrong, and it messes everybody up because they just do deeds and they don't go through all the process to do it a proper assumption. So when you see stuff coming to you that just sounds good, I'm not saying it isn't good. I'm not saying it's not legitimate. Just don't sign. Make sure you go to an advisor. Make sure you know what you're signing before you're signing.
And when we get to phase 2 and phase 3, and you're having any difficulty with the lender, reach out. That's when we call the attorneys in. We've negotiated probably over 1,000 short sales together with him to negotiate with the bank.
5,300. Yeah.
5,300, right? So
that's a lot of homeowners we've helped.
Because unfortunately, there's going to be a decent percentage of people in this town that are going to be underwater and will not be able to get out from their home. And the options are going to be, I'm in deep trouble, I'm going to walk away. We're not going to let you walk away because you'll take a 7-year hit of a foreclosure that'll make you unfinanceable in the future. And Tom is an expert at figuring out how to negotiate that out so you have the least amount of harm possible to you, right? So we got your back on that. And I pray it doesn't happen to any of you, but it's going to happen to some of you. And when it does, reach out so we can walk you down that path. And it's an unfortunate situation, but sometimes it's going to happen on that one, especially if you've got a high mortgage in a tougher spot and bought in the last couple of years.
One thing very important I want you guys to understand. 2018 was the hurricane in Panama City. Up until 2018, you as a consumer had a right that if your insurance company didn't give you a fair amount, you could hire a lawyer, and if you won the case, the lawyer got paid by the insurance company, okay? 2019, that law was changed. You do not have that right anymore. So there is no automatic provision for attorney's fees, which means if you and your insurance company are in dispute and you can't get what you need to get out of them, and we call it bad faith, right? Like where, you know, sometimes it happens, insurance companies don't want to pay. Well, pre-2019, you just go to a lawyer and say, hey, I got a good case, go fight this and get me my money. No, it didn't cost you a cent. Now, if you want to do that, it's going to cost you 30% of your claim. So if you've got a $500,000 dispute, you just lost 150 of that just to go fight it.
I know.
So
we're in the wrong business.
And I say that because we're not there yet. That's phase 2 and phase 3. But as you're going through this with the insurance, just keep in mind that you've got to do the job of being your own advocate and getting what you are due, because you paid your premiums, right? When every month, when they wanted their premiums, you paid your premiums. So when you're making your claim, this is the time where you go, hey, I want my claim paid, okay? Because I did what I was asked to do. All right. So just keep that in mind to try to, as you're going forward, because it's almost better sometimes, even if you have to compromise a little bit with your insurance, because what you don't want to do is get at the end where you have no choice but to litigate and you're going to lose 30%, if not more, because if you brought in a public adjuster that didn't work, you're losing 10% plus 30%. So you want to go through the process, and I know it sounds doom and gloom, but during this phase 1, phase 2, you're dealing with your insurance, try to get to a compromise settlement with them.
Yep. Very good. All right, good tips. Tom, Abraham, and Sweeney.
Thank you very much.
More questions. We have a good conversation up with him too. Two more points we're going to hit. And Bill Carnes, come back up for a second. And then Jared, I'm going to pull you. And then we're going to do a Q&A for everybody. And we'll take you. All right. Yeah, other mic right there. All right. One other thing. This is real life that's happening, and it may or may not work for you, but I'm going to tell you what we're doing with some neighbors right now. Some of you who are in a position where you do own your homes, have a very low mortgage balance, or own them outright, what we're doing with some people right now is we're forming partnership, right? And for example, let's say I own a lot and it's free and clear, and it's worth $300,000 or $700,000, whatever the number may be. I'm going to go and say, do you want to build a house together? I'm not going to move back into it. I don't have the $1 million, or I can't get a loan to build $1 million house, but I have this piece of dirt. Option 1 is sell it to a scum-sucking vulture. Option 2 is wait to sell it when the market gets better. Or option 3 is partner up. So what we're doing with some people is partnering up. Let's talk about how that works when you contribute the land and we pay for the house, and it may or may not work.
What we've come up with is a fair market value for your house. Not the bottom feeder price, but the fair market value for your house. We use that as the baseline. You don't have to invest any more money other than your property. We will put together the financing, we'll build the house, and we'll put it on the market, and we'll make money. You'll get the money that the house was really worth, and you'll get half of the profits that come out from selling that house. So it's a nice opportunity for people that are in a situation that they can't do it themselves. Maybe they're retired on a fixed income and they can't qualify for a mortgage, whatever it is. Jeff and I will team up, we'll come in, give you fair market value for the property. We'll build it, we'll sell it, and I assure you we'll make money doing that. You'll end up a lot better off than just selling it to a bottom feeder.
A lot better than selling the lot, so that's good. So.
And that's something we want to do for the entire community. You know, this rebuild process of Madeira Beach isn't gonna happen overnight. It's gonna take many years for the houses to be rebuilt, for the businesses. You know, Jeremy does a great job here. Thank God he's open. A lot of businesses aren't open yet. A lot of businesses won't open again. Tourism is gonna be very soft for an extended time. Who's gonna wanna come and swim in the ocean in the condition that it's in right now? Who's gonna come and rent a boat and go out in the intercoastal? It's not happening. Then it's devastating what's happened, but if we all stick together and work together, we can bring this community back to where it was. And we're
Yes.
committed to do that. We're not going anywhere.
It's got it. Awesome. Thank you, Bill. All right.
Thank you all.
Okay. One more thing, Jared. Where's Jared? Jared, come on up here. Jared is the public adjuster from the insurance company, and I've used him before in my personal properties before, so I can vouch for the company and for him. And I don't get anything for this stuff, so this is just servicing. So Jared, what's the argument for using you? When should we use you? What do you do? And tell us briefly what the process is.
All right. Oh, did I get you? All right. My name
Hey
is.
guys in the back, one more time, please keep it down, because there's a lot of people trying to listen here. We're gonna be done here in not too long. We appreciate that. And while I've got everybody quiet for a second, can I just give a shout out to Jeremy, the owner of the Dak Shack over here, for 23 years in business. He opened this right when we opened our real estate office right in the same plaza. So we've been friends we used to be young, actually, believe it or not. And but it's really cool. So thank you for doing this for us. He sacrificed a normal business night for this one, so we appreciate you, and thank you, Jeremy. All right. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I know it's getting pretty late now. Everyone's tired of hearing people speak, so I'm gonna try and be as fast as I can. My name's Jared. I'm a public adjuster, and my job is to make the insurance company pay what they owe. That's what we do. That's where we go.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of doom and gloom here tonight. I'm gonna try and make it as good as I can. The reason you would hire me is if you want to get everything that you're owed on the first try, as fast as you can, as quickly as you can, with as little chance as possible as falling through the gaps or being left behind. On flood claims, Jim was absolutely right, had some great information. We can't always get you more than what you would have gotten without us, but we absolutely can make sure you get everything you're owed. We can make sure you get taken care of on the first try, because with flood claims, it's very important to understand that you really only get one shot at getting it right, and then you get 60 days to appeal, and if you don't, and then it's over. Then you're kind of out of luck at that point if you really don't get it on those two shots. So if you do get a flood adjuster and he doesn't give you what you're owed, or you don't have time, you don't understand the situation, you can't deal with it, or maybe you just don't live here all the time. For those of you who have rental properties, for those of you who are in and out of town, can't be here for every single thing that's going to happen to your property during the entire flood adjustment situation. That's where we come in. Handle everything for you from end to end, set you up with everyone you need to be set up with, make sure everything is perfect on your claim, so you have your best opportunity of getting everything you're owed the first time. And for those of you who have taller houses, for those of you who have tile roofs, or for those of you who are just unlucky enough to be in the wrong spot when Milton came around and caused wind damage, well, that's where we really earn our keep. In every single flood claim, you're dealing with federal money. And the game is all about dealing with the bureaucratic situation and being correct the first time, making friends with the adjuster, feeding him everything he needs to be fed so that he can get you everything that you are owed as quickly as possible. With any other claim, you're dealing with private money. You're dealing with for-profit insurance companies who have a vested interest in paying, what they can, but not necessarily everything they can. Our job is to get you everything you're owed and make the case in your best interest, not the insurance company's best interest. We have exactly the same kind of qualifications that their adjusters have, and usually that's the only opinion you get. Our opinion's going to be in your favor, not just what the insurance company thinks is fair. go after everything you're owed, and every single time I come onto a claim where I didn't start out on it, I always get not just a little more, but much, much, much more. Hundreds, thousands of % more for my clients every single time. That's where our value comes in. We make the argument in your case, we build the estimate, build the case, apply the experts that need to be applied, and make sure you get what you're owed as quickly as possible.
What do you charge?
So we just had a hurricane. Our charges are cut in half now. We're at 10% rate, which is less than you get from most attorneys, and is faster than you get from most attorneys. In the cases where we do need to hire an attorney, we're right there with a fully set up, perfectly prepared case that attorney can go and take to the bank.
Very good. And what up front? Any upfront cost?
There is no upfront cost. We'll do everything for free, and if we can't get you anything, then there's nothing owed. For those of you already in the process, for those of you who don't feel like you need our services up front, well, when your estimate comes back at the end, we'll review it free of charge and let you know if you're owed more money. Policy review, claim review, and the inspection is always free. And for those of you who do have tile roofs on your houses, let me tell you right now, it's very likely that you've got damage up there. The inspection is free. We'd be glad to let you know.
Perfect. There you go. So Jared Kennedy, he's one of the guys that say, I want some more information, 5-star. Thank you very much for coming. Phone number, you want to shout it out?
All right, for anyone who wants to give me a call, phone number is 321-295-6496. Please be patient. I've got a lot of calls to deal with these days.
Also on the Facebook page, when we sent this message out, he's one of the tagged people. All of our panelists are tagged on there. Just send a DM or reach out to us that way as well on that. Okay, so did you guys learn a little bit tonight? A little bit helpful? Good. All right, so now we still have time. We finished just where we have. We've got about 20 minutes left, and we've got everyone still here to do a Q&A. The way I want to do this is come up here, and we'll give you the mic. We'll listen to the thing. We'll answer the question. So come on up if anything you think is good for the benefit of the group. And then one more thing I need to say before Josh, I'll get you first in there. Kathy McKinnon, come up here for a quick second. This is something different. And whether you use us, any real estate people or not, this is a very important resource. A title company called Paramount Title. Whoa! How many vodkas do you have? All right. So what Kathy, grab this mic real quick. What Kathy and Paramount Title are going to do is if you sell it on your own or you get anybody else and you want somebody to look at something, you don't want to talk to a real estate person, you're going to need a title company to handle the transfer, and they have attorneys on site that'll look at your stuff for you. So I probably just said everything you were going to say, but say it again.
Everybody, I just want to say,
Closer? Get closer. There you go. Yeah.
Okay. Everybody, I just want to say, listen, I have been in your position. I've been flooded 4 times at Annie Rocks Beach in the same house, and I've lost everything. So I know exactly what you guys are going through. It sucks. Really does. But I just want you all to know, please do not, when somebody approaches you with a briefcase full of money, do not sign any paperwork. Do not. If it sounds good, okay, fine. Call me. Our title company will review it all and look at it. Any contracts, any quitclaim deeds, and especially when they got a notary in their car. I'm a notary also, okay? Yep. So it has to be written right. If you don't have it written right and correct, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. Later on, when they assign that contract to somebody else and they try to get to that closing, it's not going to be done right. You have to be able to provide a clear title, and they're going to come back at you.
Yep.
At every point in time. And especially, again, like they say, they're going to pay your mortgage payment. I will guarantee you they're not going to pay that mortgage payment. They're going to be assigning it to somebody else. So I'm going to give you my phone number. You can call me if somebody approaches you, and I will look at it, and our title company attorneys will look at it. It's 727-430-8974. but please do not do it. That happened to me several times. I walked away from every single one of them, but they are out there, and they will do it. Okay? Take care, guys. You all can do this. I did it 4 times. You can do it again.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. All right, Q&A. Josh, you were the first up, so.
Hi, how are you? I've got a couple questions. One for the city. Is the debris removal and the demo of your house go against your 50% rule? Because I was under the impression it was only improvements, and a lot of people are getting taken by like ServPro and other companies, $13,000, $14,000, and that could eat up 25% of your 50%.
Did you hear that? Does the demo costs and all these restoration costs go against your FEMA 50% rule number? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. All right. Yes. Shh. Guys, please. Thank you.
FEMA has a guideline of cost that the city must follow when they calculate all of the things that you're going to do with your property. So there's a per square footage price for demolition. There is a set price for electrical. There's a set price for putting drywall. There's a set price, minimum price for everything. So when you
Put a little closer. Just see if it works. Yeah.
When you go into doing the process, what the city is going to do, if you go in and sit with them to have the conversation, they're going to help walk you through what those numbers are. So you're going to look at what your FEMA 50% dollar amount is, and even though having an appraisal can be very helpful, in the very beginning, you don't need an appraisal. If you'll go in and sit down with city staff, they have a computer program that they can use to input all of the information on your property. And when they do that, that can often change what your FEMA 50% is. Then you can look at what are the dollar amounts that are required by FEMA to allocate dollars for different things that need to be done with your property. If you think that your property value would be higher than what they come up with, a professional appraisal to increase that value. But a lot of people, and what we have found so far for the citizens who have come in and sat down with the building department, is that they're able to meet that 50%. It's not going to happen for everyone, but I can assure you right now that city staff is very much trying to make that work, because I will also tell you that for 4 years I have personally fought on the planning commission and now as the mayor to keep our city of what we have. We fought for Johns Pass, to keep Johns Pass and to pass the zoning so that Johns Pass could rebuild. We fought to be able to keep our little houses that we love in our city. Some people want to go big if that's what you want, and that's okay too. But for those of us who own, I don't personally own a home, a house, I live in a condo, but for those of us who own houses and you want to stay in your single-story home, the city is committed to do everything we can do to help you keep that house. It does not mean that it'll happen every time, but we're committed to trying to do everything we can to meet FEMA's requirements and let you keep the house that you love. That is our commitment.
I appreciate that, because I saw you today and you told me to come tomorrow at 11, I'm coming.
Yes.
But I have a lot of neighbors that they spent probably $13,000, $14,000 on ServPro or whatever company it may be, and they don't realize that that does go against their 50%. So that's, that's...
What I can tell you, the city, to underscore
She's doing a great job.
Mayor Brooks said, the city is trying, will help you. If you getting an appraisal will help you, they'll let you go get an appraisal to help you, right? There's no anti-anybody. This city is phenomenal at helping. So let them help you. If you want to keep it, let's strategize how to have you keep it. And if there's any way possible, I promise you the city will help you do that. Yeah.
That's okay.
The city's going to do everything they can.
No, I know you are. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
No guarantees.
Yeah.
Right.
But if it can happen.
It was more for the neighbors who spent all this money on like these companies, restoration companies, and now they're 25% into their 50%.
Correct.
Correct. So if you pulled your debris removal permit and you do the work, if you're the person that pulls it, you can do the work yourself. And then when you go to the city and they account for what you spent, they're going to account for the dollars that FEMA requires us to use to calculate that removal.
But what about the people that have already paid for these major companies to come in? Okay, yeah. I got you. All right, here we go. Give it up for the mayor. Give it up for the mayor. Hey!
Yes. Listen to the words on that one.
All right, the second question was from the back. I'm the spokesman for the back, but if you go over your 50% with your insurance, will they automatically pay you out the $250? And what happens if they don't? They give you 180, but if you're over the 50%, they make you rebuild.
Where's Jim?
Do you get the 250?
So you trigger over the 50% mark, do I automatically get my $250,000? It's supposed to trigger that because the house is considered a total loss, is what Jim Everett's saying here. Yes. So, and then since you're here right now, you had good news, I think, today, if you can have any good news with what you're going through. But tell them about the adjuster that came to your house today.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff kind of gave me the same spiel as adjuster came today. I had 4.5 feet throughout the whole house. So about $180,000 worth of damage, and probably going to get to $250, but they can offer the $30,000 to rebuild or raise the house.
In addition to the $250.
Yeah. So, well, no, it's under the 250, so it has to be equal to 250. So
250 is your max.
it's the max. Yeah.
So
if you have 180, they'll still give you the 30,000 on top of that. So.
Okay. So, but not over the 250. So
No.
if his demo costs are 180, they'll still bump it up for another 30 grand to help him have demo / rebuild cost on that one, because it's repetitive losses.
Yeah.
And
it has to be 3 categories. There has to be 3 losses within 7 years, over the 50%. There's one other one. I don't know the brochure I had at it. So.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so yes, good.
Yeah.
Cool. And next question, anybody? Stephanie.
I just have had, my name is Stephanie. I have 2 businesses down in Johns Pass, and we don't know when we're gonna open up again. And I know there's some small business owners that are questioning where you move from here. And that's a hard conversation. But Kimberly had touched on it from Beach
Put a little
Line.
closer, Steph. Little closer.
A little bit close, okay. So Kimberly had touched on it with the SBA loans. So we've been out of no electricity for a minimum of 3 weeks at this point. For some of these companies, they've lost their incredible inventory as well. If any of you have driven through there, you've seen them scooping up inventory and putting them into garbage bins. So it's devastating, and we don't know where we're gonna go from here. But there are resources out there, and Kimberly had touched on it before with the SBA loan. There's a bridge loan that's an immediate $50,000, and then there's an SBA loan. The bridge loan does do 1 year, and then the SBA loan is a longer time frame. So I know that this is mostly residential, but for those who I've spoken to that are here from a business standpoint, there are resources out there, and we're all in this in together. And believe me, I'm with you. My daughter still thinks we're going to Taylor Swift this weekend, regardless of the fact that we don't have a job. But it's fine, where everything's going to be fine, and they think that everything's going to be fine. So there are resources out there for you, and just make sure you're reaching out, because everyone that has talked tonight will help you no matter which way you need to go navigate through the process.
Great. And that's at SBA.gov for that right there. All right. Any other group questions? Okay. Couple. We'll get right there. We'll do probably 3 or 4 more, and then we'll all be here for as long as we need to answer more questions. Go ahead. MySBA.gov. That's right. Okay.
Where would the best place to...
Oops. Whoop. Move away from that speaker a little bit. There you go.
Where would the best place to be to get a private adjuster, and what would be the cost?
Where's the best place to get a private adjuster? Go talk to Jared, wherever Jared is. Where is he? Did he leave? So, Jared, we got his contact number, and then they zero upfront cost. They get 10% of whatever they collect for you in the back end.
Sorry, I didn't mean adjuster.
What's that?
I meant the appraiser.
Oh, where do you get the appraiser? On the FEMA, sorry, good question. If you want to get a new appraisal on your house, you need to do a certified appraiser that FEMA will recognize. It's a Florida, anointed appraiser, whatever the word is. But on the FEMA letter, when you go to pcpao.org, Pinellas County Property Appraiser's website, you're going to get the FEMA letter button. It's under tools. And then when you pull that letter up, it has a link that'll take you to a bunch of adjusters or appraisers that will do that. Any licensed appraiser will be able to do that, right? What's the cost of an appraisal? Ballpark, $700 probably. Ballpark. I'm just pulling that out from past experience. Somewhere in that ballpark, $500 to $800 range is going to be an appraisal, and it depends on what your strategy is, whether or not that makes sense. Or you got to figure out: do you want a lower number? Do you want a higher number? Where are you trying to end up? What? They'll appraise it at the value it was prior to the destruction, not the way it's sitting right now. Yes. Go ahead. Where's the? It's right here. Okay. There we go.
Hi there, thanks. So I'm visiting up from way over on the other side of John's Pass and TI.
All right, down south.
Thanks for putting this together. So I have an adjuster heading out on Monday, and maybe I'm getting snowed a little bit, but she said, look, we're going to be throwing money at you. Don't stress, don't worry about things. The only thing you need to do is start mitigating. Get a remediation company in there, get everything torn out, take pictures, obviously, and document everything, which we're doing.
Okay.
But I have neighbors that are still leaving their houses with, like, what it was when the 4 feet came into our homes. Because they want them to see the destruction, right? And it's been awful, but we've gutted our house already. They're finally picking up our debris, and I'm like, it's gonna look nice, you know?
Right.
So I'm concerned that these adjusters are gonna come out and go, this looks good, you can just remodel.
Yep.
Are we making the right decisions? That's what they told us to do, get that mold, and when they come, what do I need to be pointing out? Like, hey, that nail's rusty, and there's some mold right there, and so it's on that wood, and do we need to be pointing out every little thing with them?
Great question. I'm gonna hand that to Jim right there from the insurance expert.
Yeah, you're doing the right thing. So part of an insurance contract is to mitigate additional damage. So if you leave everything like it is, it's going to get worse, and you're going to get mold. And oh, by the way, FEMA flood policies do not pay for mold remediation. So what you need to do is so immediately upon damage, if you can, you take pictures. You get your tape measure out to the water line, which is highly visible in all our homes. So you can show them exactly how high the water got.
Hold it closer.
Oh, sorry. How's that? Is that better?
Yeah.
So.
Hey Jim.
Yes.
You said it's something very important.
Yes.
FEMA does not cover mold.
No, not mold remediation.
So if you're leaving your house the way it is and you haven't started mitigation, you're going to create a big problem for yourself.
Correct. So take tons of pictures. Take a picture of the water line with a tape measure, and then you can, once you've got sufficient pictures, start tearing it out. You do not have to wait for a claims adjuster before you start remediation. So, they will pay for it. They'll pay for the remediation, absolutely.
Yeah. Question. Let me borrow.
They pay for the remediation and the sheetrock removal. They don't pay for mold remediation.
Got it. Not the mold remediation, but the remediation. Let me get that. Is this insurance? Is this another insurance question? If it is, we'll keep Jim up here.
I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Up.
You got it. Got it.
There you go. You got it.
So we're going to build up.
Okay.
And we're not going to remediate, but we still want our insurance money. The mold might be growing, do we just wait for our insurance money before we demolish?
Hey, Jim, I'm gonna bring you up here for this one here, because I think a lot of people are in your same position right now. So this whoops, sorry about that.
No, hold on. You got it.
So this situation is they're done. They don't want to live ground floor anymore. They're going to tear it down and go, but they want the biggest check they can get. Should they remediate? Should they let it sit there? Do they want to? What advice do you have for them?
Wow, that's hard. So
Closer up.
yeah, so I mentioned before, part of the responsibility as an insured in the contract is to mitigate damage. So, and I'm not a claims adjuster, so I'm not quite sure about the correct answer for that. I hear what you're saying. You don't want to spend any money on it because you're going to knock it down anyway. I'm in the same boat. I mean, I spent the money though to remediate because I didn't want them to say you made it worse by not doing anything. So I just removed the sheetrock and took it out, took everything out of the house, and I put dehumidifiers in and I stopped there. I'm not doing any more. So, but that was 10 grand. So. Oh, from the city? Oh, you're already condemned? Oh, well, you're done. Oh.
Yeah, if you're condemned already, you're condemned.
Yeah,
right?
you're
If the city's
done.
condemning your home. Sure. Hey, hold us 1 second real quick.
I didn't even do it.
Do it.
First of all, everything good about Madeira Beach is in this room right now. I've lived here 49 years, and so this is why we're going to rebuild and we're going to be great. So I just want to say that. There's so much love, and just thank you again to Jeff and Mike. So there's that. And damn it. So the part was, so
A little
for,
closer. Hold it up.
So,
Hold it up, the mic.
sorry,
Yeah.
I'm scared of it.
You're
So,
good.
so if they came in and they give you the big orange X, and unfortunately I have several clients this happened to, and it sucks, and I understand why they did it on some of them. So not to completely shit on FEMA, I get it. However, some they just checked all the boxes, and so it's because they don't want them to rebuild. But so what about that? It's kind of a big question I'm asking right now, but like, so if you have someone that has had all the boxes checked, do they try to fight it? Do they like the part where you just said where they don't even worry about the mold part because they're screwed anyway?
So if you get condemned, can you fight your condemnation, in essence, is what you're talking about?
Yeah.
You could fight anything. And that's where you can kind of take an adjuster and just go the other route and then get an appraisal, raise that number, right? Because if you just take that low-ass FEMA letter number that's on your public property website, it's low.
It's very,
And
very
I would be willing to promise you that a private appraiser is going to make that number significantly higher than what the public appraiser. Now, there's a downside to that because you're going to get hit. Because if I argue that my value is $250 and I really want my value to be $325, if I win and get my value at $325, guess what the tax man's going to value me at next year? The $325, not the $250. So every action has a reaction. So you got to figure out what's your ultimate goal, what's your strategy, what do you want to happen, right? So you can fight anything and get a good attorney involved and figure out what you guys want to do. And then you got to really play the appraisal game. You're not going to be able to move that 50% rule. You can move that number. And that's really the only thing you're going to be able to probably play with on that one. Yep. Go ahead, I'll just repeat the question.
So say you have a property that is selling, do have some walls they could use. You and Mike talked about this. You got walls that you could use, right? That you could build on top of. So what about the ones that can't? Because the tax basis is going to get reset, right? If you don't use those base walls. Is there any FEMA credit applied for taxes on that?
Well, first of all, the question was, I don't think you're not going to be able to build on top of your old walls. It's a misconception that I'm just going to add a second floor. That foundation was not made for it. It's not going to support the weight. It's not going to support the structure. It's not going to support the roof stresses. It's not going to happen. So you're going to think it might, but it's not. You're going to have to get external supports. You're going to drive new piles. You're going to get a whole new floor system over the old one. Not on the barrier islands, you're not. You're going to need pilings that are going to go down 30 feet. you're going to have to do the whole structure, and you're going to end up spending more money than you want to. So, I mean, we've been down this road a million different times.
Yep.
And the unfortunate answer, I think, is one of two things. Remediate what you have, if you can get that number to work for you, or resign to the fact that that house is going to be lifted up and a new one's going to be built. Right? That's what it's going to end up being on that one. One more question? Yep.
This table's gonna have to pay extra.
That's right. No more serving this table. They're getting good questions.
Okay, Meredith Johnson, Realty
Put it a little
Experts.
closer. Yeah.
Okay. So I've heard about grants. We're in Reddington Shores, thinking about, rumors going on about grants.
Yeah.
And just wondering, and then there's the ICC program that,
Yep.
Is
That's
kind of a mystery. Yeah. So have you guys in Madeira heard anything about the grants going out?
Here's the way the grants are going to be happening, and you can chime in on this one. The grants do not go to you. The grants go to the municipality. The municipality, if they're lucky enough to receive grants, which they will, right, they're going to go in order of priority of the worst damaged houses in the city. The one that had the most repetitive losses, that's beat up the most, will go front of the line in order to get a piece of that grant money that's given to the city. If you just had, this is your first claim, good luck, you're not going to get a grant, right? If this was your second or third or fourth one in the last 7 years, I think it is, then you're going to have a decent shot. But don't be counting on the grants, guys, because they're few and far between. In Reddington Shores before, I think 1 or 2 people have got it after the last major impacts, and same thing here. So I would really look the other route with the zero, right? My old house, I love my old house. I think about that Tiki Hut house all the time. I love that
your
thing. But
community has to participate in the grant program, which
Yes.
I live in Reddington Shores, and it's my understanding that Reddington Shores does not participate at this point. Treasure Island doesn't either. And a lot of it is because of the administration of those grants, because the money's coming to the city. So the city's responsible for the money. And if there's anything that FEMA doesn't like and how the funds are handled, the city's on the hook, not the individual grantees.
Right. So I wouldn't put a whole lot of faith in getting grants. I would look the other route on getting good funding to get a low down payment loan and just build it. And then if you look at the projection of where interest rates will probably be going, will be lower than they are today. So get in there and then refinance later when things go back down. And that's my personal and professional advice on that one, is don't be holding out hope because there's 1,000 other people holding out the same hope, and you're gonna miss the boat. You're not gonna hire the architects, the engineers, and be ready to build. So that's my personal opinion on that one. Okay. All right. I think we're at our time limit, and I want to be respectful to Jeremy on that one to do the 6 to 8 on that. So we're going to be here and answer any questions that